People just live on the side of the road now. Even when they got a $100,000 setup, you know, a motorhome, a Jeep, they still live on the side of the road because they don't want to pay the money, the excess to stay in a motel, or they don't want to pay $40 a night for a campground. So they just pull in somewhere at 3 o'clock in the morning and sleep until 10 and get up and walk around and leave. I think that's a new trend in America. I mean, it's called boondocking. People have been doing it a long time, but I say it's a new trend because a lot of people living full time now don't want to pay for places to stay. Last week, I had a guy with a $250,000 motorhome pull right out in front of where I live, right on the street. He stayed there all night, like 10 hours, and then drove away at 8 o'clock in the morning. And this is a guy who could easily afford it, but he's saying, why should I give the money away? I want to keep my own money. And I don't blame him. I've never seen a policeman, you know, force a guy in a $300,000 motorhome off the road, no. Because they know they're going to leave after they wake up, and they just leave. Then they drive 100 miles down the road and stay there on the side of the street. And every day they save like $30, $40. Well, like closer to $40, $45, $50. I mean, that adds up to $1,000 a month when you're on the road. Even if you're rich, that's a lot of money. So it's really common now to see like motorhomes just lining the streets. Wow. That guy passed me in a residential, whoa, and cut me right off the road. And I almost ran into that pickup back there. That's why I had to stop. Well, there you go. See, everyone's going too fast in this world. I'm doing the speed limit. It's 20 miles an hour down here. I'm going the speed limit. See what I mean? That guy, he was on my side of the road, just kept coming straight towards me. I had to stop. That's what I'm saying. People are going too fast. You drive your vehicle as fast as you can, and then you get to where you're going to do what? Stand around and do nothing. Now, I'm not complaining because I know it's never going to change. I understand. I'm old enough, you know, I'm 63 years old. It'll never change. People aren't going back to the way it was when I was young. No, it's not going to happen. I'm not stupid. I know people won't change. Most young people don't even want a car. And the ones that do have a car drive like a bat out of hell, like it's a sports car. But it's like a Ford Escort. But they think it's a Porsche. Young people are struggling with their purpose in this on this earth. Anyone around 20 years old to 35 years old is struggling with their main purpose in life. Do they go to work 60 hours a week to make a living? Well, that's no kind of life, and I'm not blaming them. Or Do they just live on $10,000 a year and stay at home, or get a couple roommates, or get married and just enjoy life, but never have any money? I mean, I've never seen a generation that's going to suffer as much as the millennials. And it's not their fault. They were given all these high cost of rent, $400,000 houses, high inflation on food, gas, clothing. And then they were told to go to college. And now they all owe like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 if they're lucky. Some of them owe $100,000. If you want to be a doctor in America, you're going to owe $300,000 in debt. That's how we start our doctors off in America. 300 grand in debt. That's crazy. They did say consumers, that means you and I, consumers are spending 3% less now than they were a couple months ago because they don't want to buy things. They're running out of money. They got high credit card debt. They don't trust the government anymore. They realize Social Security might not be there in 20 years, 15 years. And it goes on and on and on and on. It never ends. And so, how are you supposed to survive with that? Well, did you see anybody walk by? Probably not. I guess I'll never know. I don't look at the videos. I don't look at my own videos, no. I don't do any editing or nothing. Well, I try not to. If the video didn't turn out, I just delete it and start over. Yeah, so how is a young person supposed to survive in America, the next generation? From 20 to 35 years old. because they have to work either 30 or 40 years. Do you know how much a house is going to cost them in 20 years? In 20 years, houses in America will be, right now they're $450,000. In 20 years, houses in America will be $650,000 for a starter home. I mean, I want you to think about that. And even a car will be over $80,000 for just an economy car. At the rate we're going. So I ask you, to ask yourself, how are they supposed to survive? Here's how I personally see people surviving now. Right here. See this Sprinter van pulling this trailer? And they have a business. They have a traveling business. That's how I see people surviving in the future. Living in some kind of a box. Living in some kind of a box or a truck camper or a trailer or a motorhome that they pull around. Their house will be movable. I think, well, 25 to 30% of Americans will do that, up to 100 million people in the future. Because how are you going to afford a $700,000 house and two $80,000 cars, 6 or 7% interest, and in 15 years, bread will be $10 a loaf. Right now it's $5.50. It was $2.99. Now it's $5.50. In 10 years it'll be $9.50 to $12 to go get a loaf of bread. Now I'm retired. I'm 63 years old, so I'll be fine. I'm not talking about myself, and I'm not complaining. I'm saying the greed in America has ruined America. Everybody wants their greed in their own back pocket, and all of us are guilty, every single one of us. Out here on the Oregon coast, here's a person living in an old 30-year-old motorhome, living in there full time. And young guy, young woman, staying down there on the in the parking lot for free next to the beach, for 5 hours, and then they have to move and go somewhere else. But where do those people get their money? They don't have jobs. They're not on welfare. They're not on disability. Where do they get their money? America now only works for a certain amount of people, and I don't blame Republicans and I don't blame Democrats. I blame both Republicans and Democrats. We've been heading towards this craziness since George Bush, then Barack Obama, then Donald Trump, then Joe Biden, now Donald Trump again. It's the same old playbook, no matter who's in there. They only change a few things. They're not fixing the system as a whole. So, in 20 years, I'll be 83 years old. But in 20 years, a 20-year-old will be 40 years old with 2 or 3 kids struggling to buy food in a country where artificial intelligence has completely taken all the jobs. So how is that going to work? We are literally watching the complete and total destruction of what is called the United States of America, like the Roman Empire. In my opinion, every empire throughout the history of the world has been destroyed after a few hundred years. And next year, we're 250 years in America. And we're starting to invent. And what it is the people inventing the technology, the artificial intelligence, are all the multi-billionaires. There's only about 100 to 300 billionaires in America, like Elon Musk and the owner of Apple and Jeff Bezos, that is trying to get rid of all the jobs and just have you buy their products and they get richer, and you don't have a job, so how are you going to buy their products? That's really crazy. Like I said, I'll be, 80 years old. I won't care. I'll just live in a small motorhome, and wait the end of my life. I'm not worried about myself. I mean, I was raised on a farm in Iowa. I could just put a bucket of water over my head and I could survive on about 1,000 calories a day. I'll be fine. But how are young people in the next 20 years going to even do anything in America? Now you look, you go to like a mini golf course, miniature golf park. You don't see any 20 and 30-year-olds there unless their parents are paying for it because they can't afford it. That generation doesn't smoke, they can't afford it. They don't drink alcohol because they can't afford it. They spend about 8 hours a day on their phone because that's all they can afford. It's a national tragedy that no one is talking about. So Donald Trump is talking about creating like 10 million manufacturing jobs that pay $18 an hour. And the people that are offering those jobs are saying, no, we're going to cut back on all the employees and have artificial intelligence so we don't have to pay anyone $18 an hour. So who is correct? Who is telling us the truth? I think it's the billionaires. We have upwards to 30% of all Americans now on disability of one form or another. Whether it's Army disability, military disability, SSI disability, or you're actually just disabled, or you need rental assistance, you need food stamps, you need the government to pay you $2,000 a year for your children at tax time. And still, they're barely surviving. The average person that age has less than $3,000 in the bank. Donald Trump said something very scary this last week. He wants to check into doubling, I'm not making this up, doubling or tripling the price that farmers get for their crop, their grain in the Midwest. To help the farmers, save the American farmer, he calls it. And we want to double or triple, look at this old Ford. He wants to double or triple the price per bushel that they get. And that's straight out of the Bible. A quart of barley for a day's wages. So a quart of barley would be $100 a day's wages. And then when you hear him talk about these things, if you doubled the price of corn, wheat, barley, hay, chickens, turkeys, cows, the farmers would be real happy. But who would be able to afford to eat that stuff? So yeah, you can barely afford it now. So how would you afford it if Donald Trump in the next 3 years doubles the price of all the grains in America just to make the farmers happy? Wow. So I don't have the answer. I do know that everyone is making, and don't think the Democrats are doing it correct. The only thing they got is welfare. Every time they get elected, they just keep increasing welfare. 4 out of every 10 Americans is on some kind of welfare. 40% of Americans receive some type of welfare one way or another. And even if you don't receive it directly, you receive it through subsidies. You receive it through subsidies. Like, if you bought an electric vehicle, the government paid for a third of your electric vehicle. But the government didn't pay for it. All the other United States citizens paying taxes paid for it. If you're on disability, the government's not giving you disability. That's coming out of everybody's paycheck. There are millions of people who are on disability, but they're not actually disabled. They still go to work every day under the table and collect government disability. I know a few people that do that personally. They went on disability and then they go out and make money. And they're not supposed to. But that's a small thing, actually. That's small potatoes. So that's the question. I'll put this video in my playlist, money playlist. What is coming to America in 15 years? Wow. How is anyone going to afford it? And how can you even buy a used car? You can't find a good used car for under 12 grand now. And I see cars 240,000 miles. They want $7,000. Huh? I saw an old van, 330,000 miles. It needs a new transmission. They want $3,500 for it. And I'm like, what planet am I living on? Because I was born in 1962. I was raised in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. Where you worked, 40, 50 hours a week, but everything was inexpensive, so you could afford everything. You could afford anything you wanted. When I paid rent on my first apartment in like 1984, I was paying, the apartment was $200 a month. That was 40 years ago. That same apartment goes for like $1,800 a month today. But wages I made more back then compared to inflation than I make today compared to inflation. I mean, I could go to the store with $50 and buy 4.5 bags of groceries. For a $100 bill, which almost nobody had back then, for $100, I could literally buy 9 bags of groceries for an entire party at a picnic with 30 people going to a picnic. And I've done it before. I don't know if you're old enough, you remember hamburger used to be, when I was in my early 20s, hamburger was 69 cents a pound. So you could buy 4 hamburgers for 69 cents. 4 quarter-pound hamburgers, 1 pound of hamburger for 69 cents. So if you needed to make like 60 burgers for like a company picnic, and everybody have two burgers and 3 hot dogs or something. Hot dogs they almost gave those things away. Now they're like $7 for a pack of 8 hot dogs. You could literally make 60 burgers for 12 times 69 cents. Like $8. You can make 60 hamburgers for $8. I mean, just the meat part. That's why restaurants survived back then, because their food cost was really inexpensive. Well, I think that's all I gotta say about it right now, but I'm just telling you. And I know nobody will listen to this video. Nobody listens. I don't get anybody looking at my channel or nothing. That's fine. I'm just sharing with whoever wants to listen. There's a very small group of people just like me who follow this channel just to keep the ideas going of what's coming to America. And once it comes to America, it hits the rest of the world immediately. The news media, National Public Radio, they've been saying for 12 years how China is going to overtake America, and America will soon be the 5th largest economy in the world, and China will be our savior, number 1. And you might have to go move to China and get a job in China. That's what National Public Radio has been saying and preaching for 12 years. And now, look, China, they're crumbling. And America is still the number 1 economy in the world. You don't want to listen to the news when they have an agenda. They hate America. They want America to be destroyed and dissolved. There's a lot of people who hate America. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Americans. They hate America. They hate their life. They hate everything. So, in 15 years, just watch out. Now, I think it's all going to start in the next 2.5 years myself. I think 2027, 28, and going into 29, you're going to see a lot of people with a lot of problems. You have to listen to what they say to you. Believe what they say. That's what I always say. Like a politician, believe him, what he's telling you. Donald Trump ran on certain things, and people couldn't believe that he went out and did those things. Well, he told us during the campaign, this is what I'm going to do. Well, every politician eventually tells you exactly what they believe and what they're going to do. But we act like, oh, they're not telling me. They would never do that. Oh, yeah, they would. And they do. And they did. And every congressman is a multi-millionaire except for like 3 of them. They only make $150,000 a year or $140,000 a year. Where do they get their millions of dollars? From speaking engagements, from writing books. They get paid to like think tanks and stuff. They make millions of dollars in 8 years. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are worth $200 million combined. When they came into the White House, they were worth $1.5 million. And that was mostly real estate they owned in Chicago. And plus, they were both lawyers, so they had high income. But now they're worth $200 million 10 years later. Don't listen to what people say. Look at what they do. Someone says, I want to call you, but they never call. They don't want to call. Hey, I want to send you something for your birthday, but you never receive a birthday gift. They don't want to send you something for your birthday. Hey, we should get together sometime, blah, blah, blah. And then you never hear from them again. Don't listen to what they say. Look at what they do only. And then you'll always have an understanding of what's going on. And that's how you know that you need to avoid those types of people. Because they don't have your best interest in mind. They're just what I call roly-polies. They just roly-poly down the road. They don't even know where they're going 5 minutes from now. They know they're going to work, but they don't even know what they're going to eat for lunch that day. They don't even know what they're going to buy for dinner that night. You know, my parents were like that a little bit. My dad would call my mom after work and say, do you got any plans for dinner? I'm at the grocery store. This was on Saturday night, when he works 6 days a week as a truck driver. And she'd say, well, I don't know. What do you think? Now, I love my parents. Believe me, they're both in heaven with Jesus. But I said to them once, you're 40 years old. How could you not know what we're eating for dinner? And they looked at me like I was some kind of an alien UFO kid or something. They said, you don't need to know that. You're not paying for it, so don't worry about it. And I said to them, I was like 12 years old, I said, don't you think you should be a little better organized of things? They just laughed it off. That generation back then, they just laughed it off. But that's the way every American is today. What's the first thing you do when you get off work? You go to one of two places. The grocery store or the liquor store. Or you go home and order a pizza to come to your house. I'm not worried about my generation. We're all baby boomers. We've made it. Whatever's happened to us has happened to us. There's going to be 2 or 3 million baby boomers homeless because they don't have enough Social Security to pay rent in 8 years. So unless the federal government, unless a Democrat president gets in there and starts passing out free subsidized housing to 30% of all baby boomers, then they're going to be living in their cars if they don't get that free government welfare. Which Donald Trump just cut back on. He just cut back on the new big, beautiful bill. 26% of all subsidized housing got cut in all the states. Wow. Here in Oregon, in July 2025, they're laying off 600 to 800 or 900 Intel workers. They're laying off 6, 7, 8, or 900 DOT, Department of Transportation workers. Because Donald Trump said, we're not giving you any more federal money. I'm not saying it's bad, and I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying we're going to have a society that senior citizens are living on the street in their car. The largest growing percentage population now of homeless people is people over 50 years old over 50 years old is now 51% of all homeless people. And what's going to happen to the hospitals and the health care in America if we don't get a hold of it? Now, they've been passing it down the road like the Social Security problem, the welfare problem, the disability problem. They've been passing the hospital problem, the health care. You know, the hospital's been going out of business. I had a friend tell me the doctor wanted to do an exam on him. Now, this guy works at a hospital, so he gets 100% free health care. That's why he works there. They said, we want to do this scan on you. He says, well, do I need it? They said, well, I mean, you know, it's paid for by the insurance. You might as well get it. But he said it was some kind of a scan that would not have told them they already know what was wrong with him. And the scan cost $6,500. And he was telling me the story. He said if anyone else would have had to pay for that, and this is a guy who works at, a friend of mine works at a hospital who gets 100% free health care. He doesn't get free prescriptions, but he gets free health care. Man, oh man, oh man. It's one of the benefits of his job. So that's it. That's about all. I like Forrest Gump, and the famous words of Forrest Gump. That's about all I got to say about that. I'm seeing people here in Oregon building tiny houses. I'm not kidding. They're buying one lot, you know, for like $80,000 a lot. A piece of land, one lot or 1.5 lots. $80,000, okay. And they're putting 3 $50,000 tiny houses on it. They live in one and charge $1,000 a month for the other ones, 2 of them for rent. And so, yeah, they invested $230,000 or $50,000, but now they got a $2,000 a month income for life and free housing for themselves. So instead of buying one house to live in for $450,000, they're doing this other thing for $250,000. And they find 2 senior citizens, like little old ladies, give them $1,000 a month for rent to live there. They even throw in the garbage and the water and the electricity for free. So that's a really good deal for your grandma. And then they got $2,000 a month income. About 8 years ago, people were coming to the Oregon coast building $800,000 houses. That has almost come to a standstill now. People building, you know, $500,000 to $1 million houses. No, no, no. Another thing that's went way down is drug use in America. Because Donald Trump closed the border, all the drugs in America have been cut back by about 70%. They can't get drugs into America. I mean, they're getting in here, but not like they were before under Joe Biden. They completely have basically shut down the drug trade at least 60% in America, and thank God for that. Now watch, I'll show you something up here, and then I'll end the video when I drive through Yachats, Oregon, on the Central Oregon coast. I'll show you, they got 3 tiny houses up here. Instead of one big house, they rent them out, or cottages for people to come on the weekend. Now this isn't the place I was talking about. No, I had a friend who did that other thing with the 3 houses. Yachats, Oregon, gem of the Oregon coast. Okay, I'll show you. It's going to be right over here. You can look back there. Right there. 1, 2, they made a little campground. They got 3 of them right there. 3 tiny houses and a couple on 5th wheels instead of building a regular house now. And that's the best way to do it. You get the right neighbors. You own all 3 houses. You get the right neighbors. So if you ever want to leave town for a couple weeks, your neighbors will watch your house because you're their landlord. So they will watch your house. You can even tell them, hey, I'm going to be out of town for 2 or 3 weeks. Watch my house and I'll give you a couple $100 off your rent next month. For house sitting. It's a good deal all the way around. I don't know why people are buying, you know. Well, I got a friend who sold his house for $250,000. Well, he passed away, so his family sold it for his sister. Got $250,000 8 years ago for this house. Someone else bought it for $400,000 a few years ago. Now they're trying to sell it for $530,000, and they can't sell it. And now it's down to $475,000, and they still can't sell it. They haven't had one single offer. And they moved out of town. It sits vacant. That's incredible. So the house was, you know, going to sell for $540 like everything else, but then just in the last 8 months, that house has went from $540 to $475, and it still hasn't had one single offer. If they would have sold it 18 months ago, they probably would have got $520,000. But they waited too long. And people say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Who is this idiot on the internet? Yep, that's me. My advice is worth exactly how much you paid for it. About zero, because you don't pay for anything on this channel. In fact, I don't care if people watch the videos or not. This is a very, small club of people who watch these kind of videos. And they say in southern Florida, the value of homes is dropping. Well, that's what happened during the Great Recession, and then it went to Nevada, Las Vegas. Then it started going all over the country. So Florida's kind of, the key here. The prices are dropping up to 30% in southern Florida right now. And we haven't even started anything We haven't even had any bad things happen. We're still under the good times in America. So during the Great Recession, I'll talk a little bit more. During the Great Recession in America, man, I would hate to have a job delivering the mail today. That looks like a hard job, and it ruins your car. They don't get paid that much, actually. It's high stress. Then you got to get out and deliver 80 packages a day. Man, look at these people walking for exercise. Good for them. A dad, a mom, and a son. That's good. They went up to Cape Perpetua there, up the hill. They looked like they were exhausted. Let me finish. So during the Great Recession, you had $200,000 houses in Vegas that went down to $80,000. But here's going to be the problem during the next Great Recession. And it will happen eventually in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. It's going to happen. So you won't have, before in 2010, you had $200,000 houses dropping to $80,000. In Florida, you had the same thing, $200,000 houses foreclosed on. They went down to like $60,000, and people went in and stole all the air conditioners, the washers, dryers, the HVAC units, everything. The piping out of the walls. I saw a documentary where some people would sell an air conditioner to a guy 2 miles down the street and then go to one of those houses and pull the air conditioning out of the abandoned house and drive it down and install it in the other guy's place. Wow. I mean, just total stealing. You know, the Bible says thou shalt not steal. There were people who made a lot of money doing that, because they were getting all their product for free. So when the mortgage company showed up and said, hey, okay, we need to fix these houses up. Hey, where did all the plumbing, the appliances, the dishwasher, where did the sinks go? Where did everything go? So here's the problem with the next Great Recession, and then I'll cancel this. I'll stop this video. We're not going to be filing foreclosure on $200,000 houses in the future. We're going to be filing foreclosure on $500,000 houses all over America. There were several million of them in 2008, 9, 10, 11, and 12, but that was only $200,000 houses. Today, they're going to file on $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 houses by the millions. Foreclosure and bankruptcy. And I believe that's what's going to destroy America. It took 5 years to recover during the Great Recession, and in the small towns, some small towns never recovered. Like here on the Oregon coast, the small town I lived in, it took 7 years for this town to recover after the Great Recession started. So it went from 2008 to 2015-16. It took almost 8 years. And then 3 and 4 years later, the pandemic hit, and then 2 years later, the inflation hit. And now, job losses are coming. They tell you to your face, we're investing $50 billion into artificial intelligence to get rid of your job. You should believe what they're telling you. They're telling you straight up. They're not lying to you. They're saying in 10 years you won't have the job you have now. Unless it's a greatly detailed, highly involved job that you have to have a human being doing. Like making a sandwich. So we're going to have a bunch of $20 an hour employees, you know, cashier, sandwiches, stocking shelves. Look at how beautiful that is. You know that Jeep in front of me, just that Jeep costs like $75,000. Why would you spend that much money on a Jeep that only 2 people can sit in? And they don't even have that much pulling power either. It's one of those little Jeep trucks. They cost like over $70,000, $75,000. That's why they don't sell very many of them. So Walmart just started getting their first stores. It's a fully stocked Walmart, and they stock 60 to 80% of their most popular items that are sold online to be delivered. And there's no customers. You can't go in the store. It's a warehouse, and it's only, they're setting them up, and it doesn't say Walmart on the outside, and there's like 100 people in there working. And they're going to have artificial intelligence stocking all the shelves and fulfilling all the orders on like conveyor belts. And it's going to all be fulfilled, and then someone will take it out and deliver it to the customer's house within like a 5-mile radius. And they just started making about 10 of those right now this year. And they're testing them, and then next year they want to make about 300 of them. Which means you're not going to be able to go into a grocery store in 20 years. They will tell you what is available, and you will wait in the parking lot, and they will bring your food to you, or take it to your house, and you'll have to sit around for 3 or 4 hours to get your food. Man, oh man, oh man. That's what they're doing. They're trying to get control of Americans' food. Just like the Bible says in the Christian Bible, you will need a seal on your hand or forehead to buy or sell food in the future. In the last days, says Jesus. Most people think it's coming during the Great Tribulation only, but I'm telling you, it could come before the rapture. It's not guaranteed that it won't. I love it when there's 5 cars in front of me, but the big, huge truck behind me is tailgating me for me to go faster. But there's 5 cars in front of me. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of hatred for your fellow man and woman here. There's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of haves and have-nots. People who have and people who have not. See, look at them all. Now look, I'll zoom in. Look at them all tailgating each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people tailgating each other right behind each other. Why? Do you think you're going to go faster and get ahead all the way out here, 20 miles between towns on the Oregon coast? You're only going to save about 6 minutes. So why tailgate the car in front of you and put your life in danger? Because can you guarantee that car will not slam on its brakes for any given reason? You know, maybe they drop their bag of marijuana on the floor and they slam on their brakes. See, look at those people living full time there, see? And they were in their 50s. They weren't retired. They were like 50 years old. They had everything to live full time and pulling a trailer. They weren't just camping. That's what a lot of people are doing. You know, also there's a lot of people moving overseas now to like Greece, Vietnam, moving to Mexico. You know, you can work as hard as you want in Mexico, and you literally, let's say picking apples, for example, some kind of farming job. They work those people 12 hours a day down there for $2.50 an hour. And if they come to America and pick apples, they get $20 an hour plus, you know, housing, which is crappy housing, but they still get it, and they get small amounts of health care, but most of them don't need it. And they get transportation from the border up to the whatever the farm is, like up in Washington State here, to pick the apples. And $20 an hour. So they'll work the season, and they will take back with them like $5,000 cash and go back to Mexico after only 3 months of work. But their fellow Mexicans in Mexico are making $30 a day, and they only make like $1,000 in 3 months. So if you show up back in Mexico and they have $1,000 and you have $5,000, and in Mexico you can still buy like 3, I'm not talking about the tourism, I'm talking about people, real Mexicans living in real Mexican neighborhoods. You can buy right on the street 3 Mexican tacos for $1. And all you have to do is apply and show up to it, because Americans don't want the jobs of picking apples. It's a big thing around here. Americans don't want to do farm work because it's excruciatingly hard. And the farmers will tell you the only ones that can do it is the Mexicans. You got the people from India come over here. They're in the technology corporation, or they buy a 7-Eleven or a small motel or something. The Mexicans come here to do the hard work. The Americans can't, you know, young Americans, they were not trained as children to do farm work. They don't have the muscle capacity, the stamina. They can't pick apples for 12 hours, $20 an hour. They can't do it. I myself, I'm older, I could not do it today. I could have done it when I was 20, yeah, because I was raised on a farm. So what's going to happen? I mean, we are in the most exciting time in the history of America since like the Revolutionary War. The things that, you know, Del Monte Foods just filed bankruptcy. They're selling it off. 130 years, 125 years in business, they're going out of business. Because things like Great Value product in Walmart put them out of business. Put them out of business. So we're seeing entire corporations go out of business. Farms are completely changing. The prices are doubling on everything. From housing to clothes to shoes, everything is doubling. Some things have gone up 400%. In 8 years, houses went from $250,000 to $480,000 in 8 years. What are they going to cost in 8 more years? Are they literally going to go to $900,000 in 8 years? That's why I'm saying, if you don't have a plan, the only way you're going to survive, in my opinion, become a Christian, follow Jesus, become 100% debt-free, lose the 30 pounds you were always wanting to lose, start working out like a half hour a day, stay in shape, start investing your money not into the stock market and stuff, buy some silver. I wouldn't buy gold. Buy silver, 1 ounce rounds of silver. I mean, if gold goes up anymore, you could just go out and pan your own gold. Just spend a summer in Northern California finding 4 or 5 ounces of gold out of the back of your van or something. It'd take you about 5 months to working every day to find about 5 ounces in 5 months. But if gold goes to $10,000 an ounce, it's at $3,500 now, or a little less. Silver went to $36 an ounce. That's crazy. You could go to California, if gold ever goes to $10,000, you could just go out and pan gold, make $50,000 in one summer panning gold out of the back of a van. You can find about an ounce of gold in 30 days if you're working like 8 hours a day at it. I think about all those guys. That's one of my hobbies. I watch guys gold panning. Not so much in Alaska, but Northern California, Southern Oregon. That's kind of what I look at. And down in Arizona, they dry wash, and in Nevada, they dry wash for gold in a few different places. And they've been doing this for 10 years. They've been collecting, 30, 40, 50 ounces of gold as a hobby over their life. And now, if gold ever goes to $1,000 an ounce, look at that truck that was tailgating me is passing the other 5 cars in front of him. Whoa! All 3 of them followed him, and there's a truck, a truck or whatever coming straight towards them, and they all started driving. Oh my goodness. Look at that. 3 of them just passed him and started driving straight towards this truck and this trailer. Oh my, oh my, oh my. The guy just went across the highway in that semi, and people are just walking straight out in front of traffic on the highway with their children. I'm telling you. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just showing you what's happening in front of your face right now. But of course, you see it all day long. But yeah, so if they've been panning gold, like 50 ounces of gold in the last 10 years, these guys who are very aggressive about it, and it ever goes to $1,000 an ounce, I'm sorry, 10,000. They'll have $5 million. Or wait, 50 times 10,000. So 10 ounces would be $1 million. No, it would be 100,000. So they'll have $500,000. I got a guy who's on a crazy motorcycle behind me, driving like a bat out of hell. Look, he's in a no passing zone. Watch him. He's from Canada. He's doing 75 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone. Look, there he goes. And you see here's a guy living on a bus. That bus is longer than the bus I took on school when I was in grade school. So here's the moral of the story. Two things I want you to hear here. Now, the first one is I hope you give your life to Jesus Christ, but the other two are, what are people going to do? Well, let's go to the other one first. Look at what's actually going on around you. It's not just in this video. I just drove 40 miles and saw this craziness. It's happening where you are too. Every day, you see it every day. So that's the first thing. Look at what's actually happening, not what people are saying, but what's actually happening. Number one. Number two, what the second takeaway, what are people going to do? What are they actually going to do about the problems that are coming in America within 10 years? I will leave it right there.